I'm going to see Hans Zimmer Candlelight.
That's meant to be
Westminster
really, really lovely.
Church.
It's very refined, and then going and getting hammered.
Yeah. You say that like she's not going to be shit-faced at Hans Zimmer.
It doesn't start till 9. I'll be no, it's not that kind of music, Hayley. There we go. Right.
It was banned for 70 years, so it's still in its infancy. You know, imagine if it hadn't been banned, maybe the women's game would have been on top. If they haven't got a winner's mentality somewhere in their personality, they're probably not going to be a professional sportsman at any sport. When she used to turn up at games, people always thought she was the physio. So it's trying to change the mindset. Don't tell me every black coach with a badge isn't good enough. You know, that can't be the case. If the people didn't use the platforms before me, I wouldn't be sitting here now.
My dad in the cup final.
In the cup.
Beat you though. Sorry.
Well, we beat your dad.
Yeah.
Chris Ramsey, what a pleasure to have you here. MBE, no less. You've won many awards, and you've just been awarded another as well, a Lifetime Achievement Award, was it, at the London Football Awards?
You know, you're getting older when you're getting older.
It's one of those you have to get up to get the award, and you're like, there's still more to come.
Yeah, exactly. I've got a few more years. Yeah, no, it's been a pleasure to get that award, and it was really a big honour for me, really, because first of all, it was a surprise because I never knew I was even in the running for it, and then to be handed it by Hayley King, the legend, and everybody else that was there that voted for me, the extensive panel.
So you get to kind of talk yourself up a bit here, which probably isn't that comfortable for you, but just talk through the different stages of your career that they were recognising and giving you the award.
I think it was mainly for coaching. My coaching when I came back. Used to live in Malta. When I came back from there, and then I was at Orient, and I was footballing in the community with Wimbledon, Orient, Queen's Park Rangers. And then I went Newham Ladies. I coached a women's team for 3 years as well. And then I went from there to the FA, and then to Luton Town, and then I went abroad to America, came back, and then I was at Tottenham for the best part of a decade, and then Queen's Park Rangers.
Yeah.
So.
And it's not just the footballing side as well that they're recognising. It's your contribution to kind of bringing people on through the game, to supporting black coaches, which is still a huge issue in the game as well. And as you say, working in the women's game, it's across all different areas.
Yeah, I think inclusion is really important, especially at the moment. I think there's obviously a big purge on trying to grow the women's game here, and also women working in football. So my assistant at Queen's Park Rangers was a woman called Manisha Taylor, and she came from being the assistant under-9s coach and all the way to being the assistant head of coaching, which was a first for a female, and especially a South Asian female. So it was really important for me to make sure that the staff was diverse, and that we did have quite a few female staff members, physios, analysts, and obviously coaches, because a lot of people, when she used to turn up at games, people always thought she was the physio. So it's trying to change the mindset that there are going to be many jobs that females can do in the game, as you are exponents of, and fairness is the thing that comes first to mind.
Yeah. And how far have we come with it, do you think? Because it's obviously a long way to go still, but do you feel there are strides being made?
I think there's been strides being made, but when you think about the game was banned for 70 years. It was banned for 70 years, so it's still in its infancy. You know, imagine if it hadn't been banned, it may be on equal pegging. Or believe it or not, it might be that the women's game would have been on top.
Because at that stage, you're like the Dick Kerr's ladies' time. It was huge. It was great sellout cars, and then it was men coming back from the war, and it said, well, the women can't play because we have to allow the guys to get back into playing again. Well,
it was also the reasoning of very misogynistic. The reasons were very misogynistic. So that kept the women's game back, and I'm glad to see that it's picking up. And then, you know, there's been the first £1 million sale of a female player, and obviously we understand that the wage difference are going to be based on what the economics are at the time. But I think there has been some huge strides. But as with anything in diversity, it always takes a long time because the people are holding it back, because no one wants to relinquish what they've got.
And you take your responsibility really seriously in that regard, in terms of making change because you have the ability to do it. But when you start out as a young player, you just want to play. You just want to play football. Who were your heroes? Who did you watch when you were younger?
Well, I was born right by the. Well, not born. I grew up probably 400 yards from the Emirates, where it is now. So I was an Arsenal fan as a kid, and having been born in Birmingham but not lived there, and I liked Aston Villa. So mainly, you know, the Arsenal team that won the double.
Yeah.
Back in those days was my fondest memories, and the first World Cup that was in colour was 1970. I mean, your parents probably weren't even.
Yeah.
But so there was a lot of influences back from those days that I looked at it.
That World Cup, that 1971, is one that people talk about so fondly because of the colour and because it was that Brazil side as well that came through. And it was, you know, as much as the pictures were in Technicolor, the players and the playing style was in Technicolor as well.
Exactly.
It's one of those ones that is. There are certain World Cups that stand out, and that's one of them for all those reasons.
Exactly, and everyone wears the retro kit now, doesn't
Yeah.
they?
Exactly.
So it was great. So yeah, so I had Arsenal was my team, even though I worked at Spurs and I loved Tottenham and loved the fans. Just to make that be clear.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, to be honest, there aren't many people who can do both.
No.
Not many people who cross the divide, or at least do it in an amicable way. Anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You've had this lovely long career playing, coaching, continuing this work that you do across sort of, you know, many aspects. Was it always football that you wanted to get into, and kind of what was the dream?
Well, I've lived the dream really from the point of view. I probably haven't been to the heights that your partners and parents have done, but you know, I've been fortunate enough to play against them. And
My dad in the cup final.
In the
He
cup.
beat you
in
though.
the cup.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Just throw that in there.
But-
He's not here to defend himself, so I'm just flying the flag.
Well, we beat your dad in the quarters. But you know, but to play at that level, so it was important for me really to educate myself extensively away from the game in order to have longevity in the game, i.e. getting my pro licence and also I would call it civilian qualification, so qualifications where you're going to uni with people that are not in the game. So that helped me really expand my mind, and it kept me working in the game on different levels, you know, like from being a fitness coach to physiotherapy to coaching all the age groups. And I thought that was really, really important. So from 16 to now, which is 47 years, you know, I've only really been a football person, a bit institutionalised really.
That sort of physiotherapy background as well, and that knowledge of the physiology of players, I think there's a lot of that at the moment. There's a lot of focus on that at the moment because players just seem to be picking up all these muscular injuries, particularly, I mean, it's increased over the last couple of years, but particularly this year after having had the Euros and then, you know, they've been Jean-Philippe Mateta was at the Olympics as well, all the way through to the final, but and is fit and healthy as things stand at the moment. But there has been that wear and tear on the players' bodies that Rodri, ironically, was pointing out.
Well, the thing is, the way I look at it, and then this is going to be fun on a manager's podium, more to look at, you know, because I've you know, got a master's in sports science myself, so having understood that physiology and stuff like that, and I do think that sports science has come into the game at a good level and has helped people to get better physically. But I do think that they definitely need to take responsibility for a lot of the injuries that have gone on. And unfortunately, it's only the manager that gets the sack.
Yeah.
So when you go to clubs, people have been at clubs 8-10 years and they've seen off managers. So I definitely believe that the sports science and medical departments need to take much more responsibility for how the players are. Having
said that, I was working with someone the other weekend who was talking about being on a treatment bench and the manager hovering, saying no, he's fine, he'll be all right, he can play at the weekend. So there can be pressure sometimes on the sports science department.
Well, I think if you think about the average manager is 1.1 year, so you know 6-7 losses, you're going to be out of a job. So
and you usually only get one chance at it.
Only get one chance. And most managers only get one chance. Yeah. So you're looking at this. Yes, the player care is important, but obviously you maintaining your life in football is important as well.
Yeah. And managing your career and managing your own career as well. And also, I think, you know this with Frank, when you've had a manager who's been a player, you know, when you've been in that position, you feel like you know the practicalities of it rather than the theory of it as well.
Of course. I mean, listen, obviously, like I said, it's moved on. And I think when you're a player, some players will play with injuries or play with slight knocks. I think the modern player probably knows their rights a little bit more and more likely to not play till they're right, you know. I mean, people used to play with the flu in the old days. I mean, you wouldn't even think that was a problem. Now you're probably not even allowed into the club.
Yeah.
So there has been that little bit of a change, and I think when you've been a player, and you can see people malingerers, so to speak, and then you see your job going out the window. I think that sometimes causes the desperation with managers.
It does. That's the whole. I was just interested in that sort of transition from the player to the manager thing, and you have seen it all, Chris, and it does give you such an insight because you understand every single role within a club so differently once you switch roles, don't you? And like you say, then you understand people's reasonings for different. I mean, you'll have players who will maybe have an injury, but they're desperate to play. There'll be a big game at the weekend, and they're pleading with the manager. I know Frank would have had that over the years too, and he's like, I can't have you injured because I need you next week. And it's just like that constant battle, really, isn't it?
Well, I think when you look at the transfer windows, you start seeing people's motives round about that. Who's looking for a new contract? Who's been tapped up and maybe going to another club, so they want to avoid injury. So round about those times, you start seeing the people that are probably looking to play regardless, and the people that are looking to protect themselves based on the fact that they might be going somewhere else.
Yeah, I've heard a few players say that they never played at 100%. Like no footballer ever takes to the pitch at 100% fitness.
I don't think I totally agree with that. You know, if you after pre-season, after the first 6 miler or whatever you're going to run, back in the day, you were never 100% fit. You were never 100% fit. You played because you wanted to be in the team. You played because you wanted to progress in your career.
Just thinking of everything you've done, Chris, there. I mean, at this point now, what sort of still lights your fire within the game? What is it that you still get excited about, makes you want to kind of go to work the next day? Is there a thing at this point?
Believe it or not, playing was obviously one of the things that everybody wants to do, and you want to play as long as you can. Managing was good, but developing for me and seeing players, you know, take that field and become internationals and be on the TV talking and seeing what influence that you and the people that you work with have had on them. So developing players is really the thing that lights my fire.
It's like a weird parental kind of
Exactly.
sort of pride, isn't it, I guess?
Parentis,
Do you see bigger and faster progress in younger players than you would? Because at sort of elite level, you're tweaking, really, aren't you?
Yeah, but I think a lot of the times, if you look at a lot of elite players, the best ones, like in a lot of sports, you know, your Michael Jordans, people like that, Kobe Bryant's, they still have they still train.
Yeah.
They train like they're on trial. You know, they train properly. I remember when David Beckham was coming backwards and forwards from America, he'd come and train with us at Tottenham sometimes. He trained like a trialist. I mean, he trained properly, and you would think someone of that level would probably just come and have a kickabout. He trained properly. So all the top people, I always think, train properly. And I think that a lot of people who get to a certain level, you're right, they think it's just tweaking, but sometimes it's not that. Sometimes you actually have to do the thing that got you there on a consistent basis. So, you know, trying to work with players now, young players, keeping their feet on the floor, making them realise that the things that got them there, and you know, won't be the only things that keep them there. They've got to keep on evolving.
What about those players that now have so many external factors and social media, and they want to click their fingers and be playing in the Premier League? They want the fast car,
but some of them have their own medical team as well, don't they?
Their own PR team, their own team of teams, and they want everything instantly, compared to back in your day, maybe the 70s and 80s, where you just tried your luck and hoped that you had the talent and rode your luck, and there you were. There's so much more to coaching and mentoring now, isn't there?
There's a lot more to mentoring before with the players, because of the external people, the advice that they're getting that may be contrary to the advice that you're giving. And I think that obviously when you get to my age, it's about keeping up with the times as well. You know, we can still have our values from before, but you've got to realise that these are different people, literally different, living in a different world. So keeping up with the times is so important, and everybody, especially parents want it yesterday, and they can see other people getting things that maybe their sons or daughters are not ready for, but they're not willing to wait for.
I think that the sort of change in how players are brought through the system is really interesting, because it used to be very much sink or swim. You're good enough, you're fit enough, you're mentally strong enough, fine, you'll make it. Everyone else, they didn't have time for. But now I hear a lot of people complaining that players are soft and they can't take criticism. And is it that they can't take criticism, or is the way in which you bring them through had to change? What do you think?
I think what we have to look at though sometimes is just they're just members of society, the way society is. If you look at children now, you go to schools, you know, where we used to get the blackboard rubber thrown at us, and you get the cane and stuff like that. So society's changed, and you're only working with the people that come out of society, and how we bring children up now is very much different to what it was back in the 70s and early 80s, where it was about you pull yourself together. So now it's a little bit more considered, probably. Old man speaking. This is the pendulum has probably gone a bit too far, in my opinion, because when you get released, you're still released. You know, when you're out the door, you're out the door. So, you know, putting things into place. I mean, Tony Pulis is doing something on TV now, which is, you know, Tony was talking about the way that players are mentored during their career rather than wait until the end, which I think is important. I think it's important that we put things in place before there's a crash at the end. And you know, you look at it now. You know, when your parents and myself when trials used to happen at 14, 15. It wasn't one of those where you was an under 9 and you went all the way through. And if you didn't make it, because affluence wasn't the same as it is now, you had to bring some money into the family, into the house, so you'd get a job, and no one looked down on you if you worked in a burger shop or in a greengrocer's, or no one looked down on you. They just looked at, this is the job you're doing in order so that the family could survive. So having a job in itself was something to be proud of, you know.
And do you think that's changed? Do people want the image of a job? The young people that you're working with, is that something they are? Because it's always been the case that kids wanted to be a pop star or whatever, even those of us who can't sing wanted to be a pop star, and kids have always wanted that kind of life. But do you think it's changed now from what that was?
Well, I think what there is because obviously the way we are now with our phones, social media, TV, and people seemingly to get quick success through YouTubes and so different parts of social media, I think people can touch it more. It's almost like they can get there, even though it's still unattainable for the vast majority of people. But ordinary people...
It's a false proximity, isn't it?
Exactly.
Through social media. Yeah.
Well, what it is, but ordinary people seem to be getting it everywhere, and people go on it, and it seems like everybody's got the fast car, everybody's got the great holiday. So the illusion of success is different to what it was when back in my day.
Yeah.
It's like the sort of cleaning the boot thing, you know, like Frank would say when he was like, you had to, you cleaned the older players' boots, and you did those sort of things. I'm guessing kind of don't happen anymore.
He must have been one of the last generation to do that.
Probably, yeah. I'm sure he probably would have.
Yeah,
been.
well, he might have been. Yeah, probably. But now you're not allowed to do that.
Yeah.
No.
They can't clean boots and
Can't possibly get your hands dirty.
You know, in my job, like I filled the urn, made the tea, cleaned dressing rooms up after everybody, emptied the bins of dressing rooms. Like that's just what we all had to do.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
you can earn the right then to move up the ladder because you know what the crappy end of it is, and you're willing to work through it.
They don't do that.
But it's so interesting, isn't it? Yeah.
There's also a really interesting question around at the moment as well. Like you talk about the pendulum swinging. When you, if you're a young player and you're coming through and you might have like weaknesses within your body, you can work with a player and you can strengthen them and you can get them up to fitness. You can protect them. You can give them kind of preventative training in order to work with that. And the same thing can happen in terms of their mental strength as well. But there comes a point where if you break down physically too much, you're just not going to make it. And it's a much more sensitive subject to talk about. If you don't have the mental toughness, you can't make it. And that's a really difficult line that is having to be walked just now.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. But I think it's true because obviously everything is about how resilient you are. Because even as I would imagine in your industries, you've all three of you have had knockbacks, and pulled yourself away, being angry in the chat, and then you go out and stick your chin out and for another blow. So that mental resilience is so important, and I think the young players in it are still just a reflection of society. They're just people out of society, and how we bring our children up and what goes on and what the player care is just part of that. And I think we're in a sport where it's so magnified. Yeah. It's difficult for them to get away.
What about managing expectations? And I don't mean of the players, but actually, more importantly, parents, because I imagine you have to look after that relationship as well, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, the managing parents is probably the most difficult when you're dealing with. So I've worked in. I was at Queen's Park Rangers, technical director from the first team to the under nines, and then trying to get that link between the first team and the players below. The expectations are twofold, really. If they see success of young players, then they think that's them straight off the bat. And if they don't, then they want to jump ship and go somewhere else where it could be that they are playing youngsters or whatever. But it's the parents. They come in there 4 times a week, and believe it or not, when you release a player, you're not releasing him. You're releasing the family and their friends. That's what you're doing.
Their dreams.
And their dreams. Exactly. So managing those expectations are very, very difficult because they wind each other up, the parents. Well, he got that. Well, he only played 20 minutes. Well, he played for the under this and he played for the under that. So managing the expectations is probably one of the most difficult things you can have at a football club.
Yeah, the parents talking to each other is a dangerous.
I know.
It's a dangerous thing for them.
And it happens so young. That's the whole. But like my little boy's just turned 4, and like his little friends are all going to little clubs already. Yeah. And there's already WhatsApp groups. Oh, he's playing. Like my little one's not even going, but it's. Exactly. He's just 4. Yeah. And that conversation started already amongst parents.
Ridiculous. I mean, the thing is, like with a lot of the players that I've been fortunate to work with, people will say, God, did you know what they were like at under 12? Where they... No one can know who's going to make it and who's not going to make it. I don't care what anyone says. The odd person may be the phenomenon, but in general, no.
And even then, you can't tell how they're going to develop. There's so many kind of factors that come into play. And what's been interesting when I've heard people talking about coaching young players in particular is that sometimes they're not looking for the one that might catch, say, our eye if we were watching. They're looking for the one who watches, who can kind of see everything that's going on. You're looking for something completely not completely different, but different from what we might see.
Yeah, because when I talk to young coaches who only see the here and now, they say anyone can see the one who scores a hat-trick. Anyone can see the big kid who just runs through and scores. You're looking at potential. That's what you're looking for, because that is what's going to happen. What could they be? What might happen? What's going to be? We can all see what's happening now, but does it really matter now? It matters when they start getting older, and can you see that they've tried something that in a year's time they'll have the strength to do? That's what you're looking for. And in that time, you have to lose lots of games. As a developer, you have to lose games in order to get the one or two players through. And a lot of the times, you have an obligation to parents when they're bringing their sons or daughters to you. You have an obligation for them to be successful, and success might not be being in the first team. It might be being in someone else's first team. It might be them becoming a physio or a sports scientist or working in another job. But you have a career obligation to that person, and where I've been fortunate is, I've worked with lots of people that have ended up as physios or doctors or or working in different industries. So it's been important.
Tell us about some of those success stories and some of the big names that you've been really proud of being part of their development and career.
Well, there's obvious ones, but if I look at one of my things that warmed my heart the most was Stephen Corker, as we know, who's had a lot of problems regarding addiction and stuff like that, and a player called Will Ekon, who was at Watford, and I saw a picture of them swapping pennants, Sierra Leone versus Nigeria, as captains in a World Club qualifier. So you look at that. We can talk about Eze's and Harry Kane's and Ryan Mason's and those sorts of people, which is great, but they've been helped along by the people that we had in the clubs that we've had and the coaches that have been there. So I always look at development really as one, and one development is no better than somebody who's ended up playing at Barnet, because that's their potential.
Yeah.
As you would want with any of your children that went to school, you would just want them to reach the potential that they've got. So I've been really, really lucky. When I worked at the FA years ago with Howard Wilkinson, we had an under-18 team that had the likes of Ashley Cole and Steve Gerrard and Joe Coles and those sorts of things. I was only a young coach then, if you can believe that. I was only a young coach, and I learnt a lot by just working with talents. Like I haven't developed them because they came from the clubs, but just being in the situation where you can see those players develop. It was really good.
You mentioned Harry Kane there, and I think he's the one, when you were talking about developing young talent and having resilience, he's the name that was coming to mind, because he did have, the academy background, but then he was sent out on loan, and when I've listened to programmes, talking about his potential, nobody was saying he was the most talented player we ever saw. They were saying every level he went to, he was the hardest working, and he was mentally strong, and he would go, and play on loan with grown men who were playing because they needed to pay their mortgage with their win bonus, and it taught. They said that was the thing. He could hold his own in the dressing room, and that was the thing that told them he was going to be a success, even more than what he was doing on the pitch.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Harry's stats, physical stats through the time that he was at Tottenham, you would have never looked at that and said, well, he's going to be a top player. And even everywhere we went, people were saying he's slow, he's not, he can't do this, he can't do that. But we put a development program in at Tottenham with John McDermott, who's the technical. He brought me back from America, and we put a development program in that was going to look at holistic development of all the players. And we were lucky that we had some good people that were working there at the time. And then Tim Sherwood and Les Ferdinand came in and topped it off. We had loads of coaches that helped us, but they came and helped to top it off. And when you looked at Harry, we like technical players, so we're a bit snobby with that. and he was a very technical player. So we're prepared to wait for him. But there were loads of other underdog players that came through, you know, like the likes of Tom Carrolls and people like that, even Ryan Masons that all went on to play for England, Andros Townsend, those sorts of players. And sometimes you have to wait for those players, and then see what happens. In the meantime, you're going to be getting a lot of stick because you're not going to win a lot of games. But what's going to happen is you're there to help the club create assets, not to win the league. You know, and people talk about, well, you know, got to teach them how to win, but no kid, even your 4-year-old, doesn't go out to lose. They all go out to win. So if they haven't got that, if they haven't got a winner's mentality somewhere in their personality, they're probably not going to be a professional sportsman at any sport.
It's an overriding thing that it's not just the physical nature of being able to play a game, isn't it? It's the mental ability, a personality traits. Like there's so many little things that you're looking at from, you know, further back and trying to put together. It's no wonder you've won and picked up all of these awards, because we're talking about your MBE as well, which was another huge moment, I'm sure, on a personal level for you too, because it means a great deal to stand there, doesn't it, and sort of think, wow, this, you know, my work has meant something.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, it's my family more.
Yes.
You know, and you know, on the day, you know, I felt my mum's no longer with us, and I felt that the presence of her walking with me along there, and it was really, you know, it was something that I could actually give to my family that, you know, was just me to them, you know, and it was incredible. However, not to put a dampener on it, when we couple of weeks before, you go in to some really posh place in the West End, and there's all these other people that have won it, and some of the things that people had won their MBEs for, I was like going down in my chair. I was thinking, you've only done it for people kicking a ball. Do you know what I mean?
It was more than that.
There was people that have won it for things much more valiant than, you know, what I'd been given it for. So I was humbled by the people that were in the sitting.
But they're your peers. You're in their group. That's
I know.
You are on a level with them. That's, you know, you're looking at them and thinking you feel humbled by them, but you shouldn't. You're their peer.
They probably all wanted to be a football player. That's the thing, isn't it?
It's true, but you know, when you're there, and then they're all talking about, you know, carrying someone over some battleground or something like that, and then you're saying, yeah, well, I've done 4-4-2 and you know,
but it's true though, like it comes back to the power of the game, because that's the escapism and the little bit of taking away from their reality, you know, that's what it does. So, you know, like you say, that's the peer thing. You're all very equal for different reasons, but you're the one that give that person in the battlefield 90 minutes of joy one day, you know, it all means something.
You talked about inclusion, and there's also, you know, about the development and the encouragement of black coaches. And I'm hugely aware that, you know, we shouldn't be looking to black people to solve problems that have not been created by black people. But just from your personal experience of why or what the barriers are to black, particularly in the men's game, I think, because that's where there's the background and the sort of presence of black footballers that aren't making it to coaching level. Just what you think those barriers are?
I think they're, at the moment, the stakeholders have put things into place as regards getting mentees meant to work at football clubs and stuff like that. And I think that's been very slow. However, I think there are things in place. But I think that we come into selective morality. You know, in the end, if somebody owns a football club, they can hire whoever they want, and the stakeholders can't force people to hire managers. You know, it can't be a policy. You know, whereas it can be a policy for other things within the club, and it can be. And even then, people don't have to have diversity. They don't have to. It's about people having the morality to put things into place that will allow diversity, and I think obviously when it comes to clubs at the moment, I think there's a lot of headhunters now. So clubs have put a barrier. They've put a barrier in front of actually directly hiring people. So if you say, right, what we've done is we've put these headhunters in place and they pick the 5 best candidates, they might be linked to an agent, and the agent might have 5 candidates that they think that is going to benefit their company. Now, ultimately, they have got no horse in the race. So, you know, they're not thinking on, you know, we've got to redress the balance here. They're not thinking that. They're thinking about their clients. They're thinking about the financial status of their company. Therefore, that shields the clubs, a lot of the clubs, from actually taking direct responsibility for hiring whatever the minority is. I mean, the fact that you've got 43% of the playing staff that are black, and you've only probably got one manager that's black, and also there are not many black English managers as well. Now, I think what's going to start happening now, the comparison that people may be able to empathise, is that there's not a lot of English managers in the way, and I think that just on some sort of level, people will start to understand how people feel when they're being excluded from a job that should be something that should be open for all.
So that mentality that can understand people who want there to be more English managers, say, well, there's a bias against English managers, should be able to extend that to be able to say there's a bias against black managers. They should be able to make that leap in imagination and empathy.
Yeah, well, I would imagine that they would, because it's something that's very real now. It's very real. I mean, Big Sam said if his name was Aladici, he would probably be getting, and to a point, I agree with him. However, that's the same for black managers. Yeah. So it's important that people do start to empathise, and it is important that people who are not of minorities do speak up, because we're all British. At the end of the day, that's what we are. We're all British, so it's a British problem. So it doesn't matter what colour you are, or what gender, or whether you're able, disabled, whatever it may be. If there is a problem where a minority is being sort of discriminated or not, I wouldn't say discriminated, but not allowed to progress in the same way as the indigenous population, then everybody should speak up about it.
Yeah, if their challenges aren't acknowledged.
Exactly.
Do you think there's a big problem now in that if you are a black player, an Asian player, someone from a minority group, you think, why am I going to go and bother doing my coaching badges then? Because if there's nobody there that I see being represented from my group, and if I'm not being given the opportunity, I just won't bother. And that is actually happening.
It is actually happening. You're right. And the fact is that people, listen, I didn't have a job for a long, well, I did have a job, but I didn't have a job that represented my qualities for a long time. And people used to say that to me. So, well, you got every badge and qualifications that there is. You're not getting a job. So why should I get a job? Now, obviously, a lot of the players at the top end will be in a financial situation where they don't have to get a job. It's more for the people that are probably journeyman players who probably going to need to continue working in the game, that the problem will be more magnified in their lives than the people at the top. Now, a lot of the people at the top are basically, what the question is a lot of their counterparts that they've played with seemingly have got jobs pretty easily, and they haven't. Now, people always say, they talk about your husband, Steve, Wayne Rooney, people like that. I believe that because of their qualities and what they've done in the game, that they should get the jobs that they've got. I believe that. But I also believe their counterparts should get the jobs similarly. So I don't believe that they shouldn't get the jobs, because I think people say, well, why have they got? Yeah. Well, I think, look what they've done. They've played this many games, they've won this, they've done that, they've had these many managers, they've gone and done their badges, and now they're in a position to get a job, and someone's given them the job. Great. And I think that's right. However, there's the counterparts that have done equal, gone and got their badges, won the same things, had similar experiences, and they haven't been rewarded by the game in the same way. So it is a point of that level of equality.
What about something like, it comes up every now and again, something like the Rooney rule? So if anybody's listening and doesn't understand, it's having diversity on the shortlist. It's not about forced appointment of anybody, as you were saying earlier on. It's about making people look outside of where their natural inclination might be to look. Do you think, do you think it's a good idea, or is it a complete non-starter? And two, does the interview process in football actually work in a way that would allow that to happen? Is it formal enough for that to happen?
Well, Ricky Hill, we both worked in America at the time. He was the one who brought that to the PFA at the time back in 2004. It took 13 years for anything to be even worked on or even acknowledged with it. Now, Rooney Rule in its form was set for American football. So it can't be exactly how the Americans do it, but a version of it should probably be in place. So it is one of those situations where we can't just see tokenism. You can't have tokenism. Tokenism is the worst form of racism for me, because what you're doing is you're patting someone on the head and knowing that they can't progress.
Glass cliff.
So if you looked at a situation where Les Ferdinand, who's been massive for me in my career, he employed myself, and then he employed Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank, and people were calling him a racist. So, it's talking about the black mafia and that sort of thing. So, for me, why isn't everybody over the last 100 years of what clubs have been going, why are they not being called racists? So it's just people's perception of what's right and what's wrong. It's just people's perception of it. Now, like I said, I don't believe in we talked about people going and getting their badges and stuff like that. Years and years ago, when I first got into the coaching and that, I was the first male black manager of an English football team. And Hope Power, who's one of my heroes, she was of the women's team. At that time, there were hardly any black people with badges and stuff like that. So that was the excuse that was given. Now there's loads of people. Most top players that finish the game or have finished the game. There are loads of top players who have got their badges, got their pro license, got this diploma, that diploma, and stuff like that. So it is about selective morality when it comes to that, because don't tell me every black coach with a badge isn't good enough. That can't be the case. But similarly, I mean, John Barnes reiterated this the other day, something I've been saying for a long time. This is not about being better than your counterparts. It's about being as bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't think equality, for argument's sake, Manisha, I hired her not because she was better. I hired her because at that time her level was low, but so was her counterparts' level low. Yeah. So she's equal. And if she wants to learn more, then I'm gonna hire the person who I think's more suited for the job, because I have an obligation to the players. I can't just hire someone because I like them. I have to hire somebody because they're going to do well for the players. So at that time, if their level was better than hers, I'm not going to hire her. I'm not going to hire her. In the same way as if my level was equal to somebody who's a counterpart of mine, then we have to look at what's the common denominator why I'm not being hired. Now, I would imagine, for me, there's a couple of things. You could go in and really just mess the interview up, or they don't like you, which that's their prerogative. But the consistency of those two things happening can't be right, can it?
But do you know what? Just listening to you say that, it seems extraordinary that you're having to lay it out in that way, because what you're saying is absolutely fair, absolutely equitable. It's all about being able to do the job. And yet the reason you're having to make that argument is because there is a perception from some people that that is not what people are asking for, that people are asking for more than just an equal opportunity, if you like, that you're having to argue against a ridiculous position.
Well, I'll give you another example. If you look at Les Ferdinand at the moment, he's come to Tottenham, to QPR. Club was obviously going through some challenges. He's stabilised the club. The club hasn't bounced down to League One, which a lot of Premier League clubs do. And he's done a job, 8 years in the job. And don't forget, those jobs as sporting directors are only new, aren't they? They're not 20 years old. They're probably 12 years old at max.
And constantly changing and different at every club. And
Exactly, and he's helped stabilise the club. His name's never mentioned for one technical director's or sporting director's job, not one. And he's been a legend at a few clubs. So there must be why. And if you look at him, well-rounded, well-spoken person who presents himself in the right way, done every qualification you can have. But I'm not even talking about being asked for the interview, not mentioned. So, you know, you look at that and you think, well, there must be some sort of denominator why people won't look at people of colour. There must be. Now, do I know what it is? No, I don't know what it is. All I can say is that there's a moral issue which cannot be fixed by putting policies into place. Because at the moment, you know, like I say a lot of the times, there's a lot of PC language out there. So the PC language is easy to hide behind. It's the action.
That's the campaigns, isn't it, as well? Because there's so many campaigns, and some of which are incredibly useful. They bring many conversation to the table. We're all aware of them. Young children are aware of what they mean. It's very important. But equally so, it's like you say, does it actually achieve anything in the long run?
Exactly.
So it seems like there's lots of good things happening, and people are really doing their very best and believing in a lot of it. But equally so, then what are the actions at the other end of those campaigns? Do you sort of feel a bit like that at this point?
100%. If you look at a lot of the stuff that people put into place, what do? They do 4 years, and what they do, we're putting this thing into place. The first year, everyone gives them a little bit of time, and it's going quite well. By the second year, it looks like something's happened. The third year, the big fireworks happen, and by the fourth year, they put something else into place because that hasn't worked. And then the first year, there's always a big furore. So one of them forgets about what's gone on the 2-3 years before. So there's no accountability for things not happening. And it goes on like that, and it goes on like that. And what I was talking about, you know, when we have these meetings, I talk about if you're a person in your career, and that happens twice, that's 8 years of your career where something has not happened. And you all be aware, because you're doing the news all the time, how quickly new people keep coming into the game. So you're yesterday's man before you've even been today's man. So there is a problem. How we fix it? How do we fix it? I don't know if it's going to go down to policies and stuff like that, because I think who's the independent people that are coming in to look at
the
clubs.
regulator.
the regulator.
Yeah.
What can they do about this issue? Nothing.
And is it even in any of the remit that they've been? Is it even mentioned?
It's not in their remit, and also you can't force people that own things to do what you want them to do. The only way you can force people is if it's an organisation owned by the people, and the owners have to do something. If you own something, it's down to you to decide what you're going to do, and you're only influenced by the people around you. The people around you, like I said before, haven't not got a horse in the race, so they don't. I'm not calling them racists. or anything like that. What I'm saying is that they have no vision for diversity.
And do you know what, that we're talking about issues that are happening across football. There's also a bigger issue in the women's game, just purely of getting players into the game, which is it's a big issue in the women's game. And again, that comes down to slightly different reasons, which are to do with geography and affluence and access.
Yeah, and I mean that's totally right. Comes down to all the things that you've mentioned. So it's then how do we, as a football family, how do we address that? Because lots of the women's teams are affiliated to football clubs. So if you look at it like this and you thought to yourself, right, end of the season, there's merit money. Isn't there? There's merit money, and you're not accounted for the merit money. If you come, I don't know what it is, but I'm just going to give you round figures. If you come 10th, you might get 8 million. You come 14th, you might get 4 million. So you can't actually say what you're going to get. So some of that money is unaccounted for. So you should be able to say, right, we're giving the women's team X amount of money. Because we could win on the last day of the season, go up 2 places, get another 3 million quid, which we might not have got. So morally, clubs can be saying, you know what we're going to do is we're going to give money to the women's team, and we're going to try to go into places of the economically challenged places, put minibuses on to take people the backwards and forwards to train, all the sort of safeguarding things that we would do if the players had economic value. So we're not creating that economic value in the women's game by not giving people access who are in economically challenged economic challenged places, because at the moment people don't see the value in it because they're only really looking to the stars.
Chris, it's hugely important work, and it's amazing that you've been recognised for that, as well as the work that you've done throughout the game elsewhere. It's so well deserved and so important, and continues to be huge. I can't think of another word to describe the size of that job ahead, but your role in it has been huge as well, and rightly rewarded.
Well, I think it's really important as well. I'm only someone speaking on, like we're speaking here, and I would go and say it. I think when you have a platform, or albeit not, Nelson's Colin height platform, but when you have a platform, I think sometimes you have to use it, because if the people didn't use the platforms before me, I wouldn't be sitting here now. So it's really important that you use that platform as best you can. Now, this might, at the moment I'm freelancing, I ain't got a job, by the way, anyone, I ain't got a job. This may keep people from employing me. It may keep people from employing me because they're going to think that I'm going to be coming in, I'm either going to be Malcolm X or Martin Luther King, coming in with views that may disrupt. I'm fortunate that I'm coming towards the end, so if I was in the middle, maybe it might be very difficult, because you probably got family and stuff like that, and you need to earn money to keep your family going, so you can't stick your neck on the chopping block. Myself and Les have always stuck our necks on the chopping block regarding these issues. Now, sometimes people argue that in a way that isn't helpful as well, because I think you have to be strategic in what you say, because I think going in totally guns blazing, I don't think that helps. But I also think not cracking some eggs also doesn't help either, because you don't get anywhere unless people actually feel uncomfortable about what you're talking about.
And there is a responsibility on all of us to leave the world better, of course, than it was when we were in it.
Of course, and I think it is very difficult for like yourselves breaking into the industry, and the things that you don't have to hear sometimes, and the things that you hear, but you just have to take it on the chin, because if you had a fight every time something was inappropriate, you probably wouldn't be sitting here.
It's been just fantastic talking
thank
to you.
you
Thank
so
you so much
Yeah.
for coming in.
We don't get you let off, though. You're not let off there completely because we're back with our Super Six and we need help.
Yeah.
As
You can run this, Chris.
As the viewers-
you can run this, please.
And the listeners will testify we absolutely need help. Sometimes the heart rules over the head. There's £250,000 up for grabs if someone predicts this week's Super Six games. So we're going to rattle through.
I think at this stage of the season, it's even harder. We've now got into the last, 9 games of the season, 10 games of the season, and just suddenly, when teams have got something or nothing to play for, it starts to get... Even you look at Man City against Brighton, and you're thinking, City are going to kick on in order to finish inside the top 5 at some stage.
Definitely.
But whether that happens this weekend against Brighton, who are pushing themselves, who knows?
I can see City just edging that. I
Yeah.
think they'll be licking their wounds after the last result.
The Forest
It's
game,
at home.
Yeah.
I think Brighton have been up and down and they're pushing now. But I think I think City will edge that.
We've got a narrow City win there. City 1-0.
2-0.
2-0.
2-0.
Go on.
OK.
Oh, yeah.
That's what we need, decisiveness. Our favourite scoreline in this is 2-1. 2-1. Normally that's where we go.
The other 3 o'clock kick-off, I mean, high-flying Nottingham Forest, but they're away at Ipswich. What do you reckon?
I think there's going to be a shock.
Do you?
Yeah, I think I can see. A shock for me is a draw.
Okay.
Oh, right,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
Shock for me is a draw. At best, 2-1 Ipswich.
Let's put an upset in, shall we?
Is that an upset?
Ipswich beating Forest.
They can't keep running at that pace.
Yeah, but they
Say that every week, though. We say that every week.
They have done.
True, yeah. I think
Yeah.
this is a slip up. I think this not a slip up.
Yeah.
If they get a draw, I think they'll be
Just,
happy with that.
I mean, I know Wolves are starting to stretch away. Just gives Ipswich that they still feel just in touch, don't they? There's
just
still
in touch, a little
it still
run.
might happen.
I
think
love
this
the
might be
command and nature in which he's doing this.
Yeah,
because
me
this
too.
is excellent.
This is so
what
much
we
better.
need.
This is
we
so much
waffle all the way
better
through
than
it.
our. Yeah, this is excellent. I like this.
We sit here and put the case for every possible score.
Yeah, we cover our
I
bases.
throw in a few,
Cover
but I
your
feel
bases.
sorry for them. And they're like, this is football.
I'm about to do it in this one as well, because while Bournemouth have been doing well, Brentford, weirdly, are better away from home at the
they
moment,
are.
which they, at the start of the season, you wouldn't have thought it.
No.
And they lost at home last week, so I think Brentford might do something
2-1
here.
Brentford.
2-1 Brentford.
2-1 Brentford.
OK, good. Oh, this one. Arsenal, Chelsea.
Where are Arsenal at the moment in their heads?
Come on.
That's what I don't know. I don't know where Arsenal are.
I don't think they know where they are.
Yeah. But it's yeah.
Chris, can you answer that, please?
1-0.
1-0.
Oh, okay.
Like a bit. Do you think it plays out a bit like the Man United game?
Yeah.
Same sort of thing.
Yeah, 1-0.
1-0, right, okay.
Yeah.
And
And this.
off the back of the West Ham win for Newcastle, they now travel
And
to
Isak
Liverpool.
played as well, and is
Yeah.
kind of up to speed a little bit more, having been out injured. And I think this is, and I think Newcastle are just they've got stung last time at Wembley. They looked a bit shocked. I think they'll come back with more this time than
2
last
or
time.
3-0. Liverpool.
Oh really?
Really?
Oh.
Do we not need it not to be that, though, for the neutral?
Oh.
Oh, we didn't realise we were doing a keep Hayley happy prediction.
That's what this is.
Hayley, I'm telling you, that's 2 or 3-0.
No,
That's
there we go.
that's Salah in the first half.
OK.
A midfield goal second half, and probably Trent free kick.
Oh my God, he's even telling us to break down the goals.
You've taken this to another level.
That's what I think. 2 or 3-0.
OK.
Okay.
And silverware. Oh, Man United, Leicester.
Right. How do you feel about that?
Well, I'm just getting over this new bloody stadium, aren't I? What the hell is that all about?
You don't like the stadium,
Yeah.
do you?
No, it's just...
Looks great inside. It's an incredible stadium. It would be my choice of stuff, but it is an incredible.
Okay.
But I just feel when you've got the Spurs stadium, you've got the Everton stadium, which are beautiful.
Spurs is ridiculously
It's incredible.
unbelievable.
That wall, every time I go, I can't get over that. Just that wall.
Just unbelievable.
I was hoping for something like the Allianz, something
Yeah.
like that, a bit like
I
the new
love that
Bernabeu,
stadium.
anything like that. All these
architecturally just
gorgeous,
beautiful,
yeah.
but it's just
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah, sorry.
Man United off to Leicester. This could be like 0-0, this one, or something like that, couldn't it? You think?
2-1 Man U.
Well, you've got Leicester scoring as well.
Got them scoring and being all happy.
Yeah.
They score at half time.
Leicester open
and then
the
they
scoring.
win. Then they win in this thing. Either way, half time 1-1.
Okay. Half time 1-1. Man United to win 2-1.
Yeah.
Okay.
Look at that. We've got goal scorers, we've got half-time predictions. This is the most comprehensive set of predictions.
It's undoubtedly the best one yet, Chris.
Yes, by miles. Yeah.
And that is our Super Six. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
No problem.
Thank you.
If I was allowed to bet,
Yeah.
Yes.
I would go and do that.
Yeah.
Take a note.
£1 each because I'm a freelancer. Not earning my money.
That's right.
Exactly.